The body of WW2 German soldier was found. The body of a German soldier who died in World War II has been found buried in the Netherlands by a person searching through fields with a metal detector. The detectorist found the body in the municipality of Best after their equipment fired on pieces of ammunition, and the recognition tag of the soldier in the unmarked grave. An investigation carried out by the land forces found that the body was of a German soldier who died while fighting during Operation Market Garden, which took place in the Netherlands in 1944. The operation, which was carried out by Allied forces to liberate the Netherlands from the occupying forces, involved thousands of paratroopers jumping from the sky to key bridges, successfully liberating several areas including the city of Eindhoven. The unmarked grave was located close to a landing area for US soldiers between Best and Eindhoven that was subject to a high level of fighting during the war. The body was found at the bottom of an old foxhole alongside ammunition and a recognition tag, but no other bodies or pieces of military equipment have so far been discovered in the area. The finding is being investigated by the Salvage and Identification Service of the Royal Netherlands Army, which was created in 1945 and recovers items and victims of the Second World War. The soldier might be able to be identified by his identification tag. Newsweek has contacted the Royal Netherlands Army for comment. Following the conclusion of the investigation into the soldier, the body will be buried at the German military cemetery in Ijsselstein, Limburg, located in the Netherlands. Sunken WW2 ship of honored Oklahoma Navy commander identified. The Johnston's wreckage was discovered in October 2019, but officials weren't able to immediately distinguish it from another similar ship, the USS Hull. Crews discovered the Johnston at a depth of more than 20,000 feet, the deepest shipwreck researchers have ever found, naval history officials said. About 1 week ago, crews were finally able to identify the Johnston after locating the ship's hull, marked by the number 557. The ship's initial discovery came 75 years after the ship's fatal fight. Researchers with Vulcan Incorporated said in October 2019 that they found what is now confirmed to be the Johnston's wreckage, naval history officials said. It was found on an undersea cliff. At the time, researchers knew that some parts on the ship they discovered were used on the hull, but they couldn't determine whether they were ever used on the Johnston. In late March, researchers with Caledon Oceanic, a technology company, and retired U.S. Navy officer Victor Vescovo went back to the wreck site, where they found the ship's bow at a depth of about 21,180 feet, officials said. Vescovo documented and photographed the site. He and his crew also laid wreaths to honor the servicemen who died. As a U.S. Navy officer, I'm proud to have helped bring clarity and closure to the Johnston, its crew, and the families of those who fell there, he said. The wreckage of the Johnstons was a reminder of the naval battle on October 25, 1944. The Johnston was part of a small group of U.S. Navy ships in the Battle off Samar, one part of the larger Battle of Leyte Gulf. Japanese forces had a stronghold on the Philippine Islands. If Japan lost the Philippines, key supply lines would be cut and turn the tide of the war, historians say. Evans and his men among a handful of U.S. ships, outnumbered by Japanese naval forces, were protecting American troops invading the Philippine Islands during the Battle off Samar, one of the most significant naval conflicts in World War II. Even after the Fletcher-class destroyer was severely damaged, Evans and his crew kept fighting. Even after dozens of his men were killed, they persisted. Later he went down with his ship. Evans died along with 185 other men on board. And even after Evans died in battle, the legacy of this Native American naval officer from Oklahoma lives on. But in life, he rose up against adversity. He was posthumously awarded the Medal of Honor, and was the first Native American in the Navy to receive it, officials with the Naval History and Heritage Command said. He was one of only 2 destroyer captains in World War II who received the award. German machine gun of World War II buried in the sands of Normandy, France. On June 4, 2015, dispatches from Juno Beach Center in France, and Nick Logan, Global News journalist, reported that it had been uncovered a German Tobruk machine gun emplacement of World War II, long buried in the shifting sands of Juno Beach. Some are called members of war junk teams found exactly what they were looking for, a long-lost German bunker swallowed up by the sand in the decades since the end of the Second World War. Digging down, the team found the Tobruk to be mostly intact. They uncovered rests just 300 meters from the Juno Beach Center. War Junk is a television history series that tells the story of war through artifacts found on battlefields. This episode is about Normandy landings. The Germans had established what became known as Fortress Europe, or Atlantic Wall, a network of 15,000 concrete bunkers that stretched from France to Denmark. Some persons to search the area near the Juno Beach Center for buried and lost remnants from the battle on D-Day. They had a number of targets to wanted to find, but they had no idea if would locate them. When they uncovered the German Tobruk in pristine condition, the way it looked nearly 70 years ago, it was an incredible moment. Finally uncovering it after so many years buried under the sand gives a haunting reminder of what Canadian troops faced when they landed here. It's a very significant remnant that truly tells the story of D-Day. A pillbox like this would have been devastating for the Canadians when they landed. Because of the way it was built, it could fire in a 360-degree angle. It meant that it could cover all areas of the beach. This pillbox made this part of the Juno Beach sector absolutely treacherous for the Canadians on D-Day. Natalie Worthington, the director of the Juno Beach Center, added, "This is fantastic. We live here and we have history under our feet, but we don't necessarily know where." Uncovering this emplacement adds to the story. It adds to the experience of visitors from Canada and from all over the world when they come to Juno Beach. We are going to bring more information because this has its own story. More than 350 Canadian soldiers who lost their lives that day, and more than 5,000 died during the Battle of Normandy. Canada sustained the highest number of casualties of any division in the British Army Group. The 14,000 Canadian soldiers who stormed Juno Beach that day were among the 155,000 Allied troops. D-Day, June 6, 1944, was the largest amphibious invasion in the history of warfare. The statistics of D-Day, codenamed Operation Overlord, are staggering. The Allies used over 5,000 ships and landing craft to land more than 150,000 troops on 5 beaches in Normandy. The landings marked the start of a long and costly campaign in Northwest Europe, which ultimately convinced the German High Command that defeat was inevitable. U-boat lost in Second World May 2nd have been found. The haunting remains of the SS Bloody Marsh may have been discovered 100 miles off South Carolina 78 years after torpedoes from a German U-boat split the ship in two and killed 3 men. Based on evidence surveyed, participating scientists are reasonably certain that it is SS Bloody Marsh. NOAA Ocean Exploration reported a remotely operated camera found a wreck of the same size and construction. It was located in the right area to be a match. However, it was the destruction that was most compelling. Between 1942 and 1943, Germany sent a fleet of U-boats to the shores of the United States to target merchant shipping vessels resupplying Europe. During this time, numerous oil tankers and freighters were sunk, many in deep water, that today have still yet to be located. One of these was SS Bloody Marsh, sunk on July 2, 1943 by U-66. Bloody Marsh was a T2SEA-1 oil tanker built in 1943 in Chester, Pennsylvania, by Sun Shipbuilding and Dry Dock Company. It was on its maiden voyage from Houston to New York. The ship was in pieces, surrounded by piles of crumpled metal and flipped on the sea floor, all details indicative of the Bloody Marsh's notorious final minutes. The newly built ship was on its maiden voyage as a tanker carrying about 106,000 barrels of oil when the U-66 struck it with a torpedo on July 2, 1943. The engine room quickly flooded, killing 1 officer and 2 men on watch. 20 minutes later, the U-66 fired again, breaking the Bloody Marsh in two. It sank immediately, about 75 miles east of Savannah, Georgia. Historian reports 74 officers, crew and guards escaped into lifeboats and rafts, according to U-Boat.net. However, some found themselves back in the water, according to NOAA, when the U-66 surfaced to view the sinking ship and struck one of the lifeboats. NOAA has been searching for the wreck site due to concerns over the 106,000 barrels of oil stored in the ship's tanks. The site has the makings of an environmental disaster if a major leak erupts, experts say. Video recorded shows some hull sections are intact, which may mean oil is pooling beneath the rusting metal. Ships like the Bloody Marsh, particularly the oil tankers, pose a potential pollution threat, as 75 years of corrosion in the deep marine environment could cause seams to split and release the oil cargo. Meanwhile, other areas were highly corroded, which NOAA suspects is due to the warm Gulf Stream flow speeding up the rusting process. The exact location of the shipwreck was not revealed, but it is about 1,525 feet down, according to the video. The site is on the Blake Plateau, an area of seafloor that is largely flat. The torpedo is the weapon of choice for submarines attacking ships. The major submarine offensive by the German U-boats in the Battle of the Atlantic sank 2,788 ships and, assuming that 92% were sunk by torpedoes, 2,561 ships were sunk by German torpedoes. Japanese submarines sank 18 ships over 500 tons in Australian waters, and they were all sunk by torpedoes. Point 1 in a listing of 1,242 merchant navy ships sunk by U-boats, 1,141, 92%, were sunk by torpedoes, and only 101, 8%, were sunk by gunfire or the combination of torpedoes and gunfire. A bunker for Goebbels and Hitler's bodyguards discovered in the 90s. Just as Godwin's law states that every argument approaches the mention of Nazis the longer it drags on, so too does every construction project in Berlin approach Nazi bunkers the deeper it digs. Even today, it seems like the city can't put a shovel to ground without accidentally unearthing another cement time capsule of evil from the 1940s. For instance, while trying to build a Holocaust memorial in 1998, construction workers stumbled across Joseph Goebbels' bunker. It somehow survived devastating munitions attacks at the end of the war, was sealed up, and then just forgotten about. Goebbels, if you aren't familiar, was the man who led the political charge for Nazism as the Minister of Propaganda, and was the strongest advocate of Jewish genocide, so finding his underground fortress in the exact spot dedicated to a Holocaust memorial was, well, a bit awkward. But really, they're used to it by now over there. Just 8 years earlier, right after the Berlin Wall came down, Germany wanted to celebrate its reunification by having Pink Floyd's Roger Waters perform The Wall, Live in Berlin, in the exact spot where the wall used to stand. But before they could build the stage, they had to sweep the area for mines, since that's the kind of thing you have to do in an area that's affectionately been nicknamed the Death Strip for 30 years. Sure enough, while searching for munitions, workers accidentally found something much, much bigger. A secret bunker belonging to SS Leibstandard Adolf Hitler, Hitler's aptly named personal bodyguard division. It was filled with helmets, a few weapons and huge, intricate wall murals because Hitler was, after all, an artist first and a crazy murderer second, chronologically anyway. Despite this being a monumental discovery for historians, Berlin sealed off the SS bunker almost as soon as they found it, because they didn't want anyone turning it into a shrine to Hitler. Sadly, we don't have any descriptions or photographs of the murals. To this day the complex is only marked by an innocuous sign. However, if you know where to dig, don't mind illegality, and you have a good jackhammer guy, then there's always the chance you can see them for yourself.